A sleek Tesla cuts through the night, its lone driver a man the world knows as a visionary, Elon Musk. But tonight, he's not chasing rockets or revolutionizing tech. He's a man on the edge, seeking solace in the shadows of a restless city. What happens when a billionaire's quiet drive collides with a desperate cry for help? Meet Lila, a mother battling the streets, her son clinging to life, and a past that won't let go. This isn't just a story of chance encounters. It's a raw, heart-pounding tale of grit, hope, and the fight for survival. Buckle up, because when Elon's world meets Lila's, everything changes. Ready for an unforgettable ride? Let's dive in. Elon Musk sped down the highway in his sleek Tesla, alone, the hum of the engine barely a whisper against the storm brewing in his mind. It was late, too late for most people to be awake, but not for him. The weight of 1,000 ideas, a dozen companies, and a world, watching his every move, pressed down on him like a heavy fog. Tonight, he wasn't the genius inventor or the billionaire everyone knew. He was just a man, tired, chasing a moment of quiet in the chaos. The city lights blurred past, streaks of gold and red against the dark sky, as he turned off the main road and into the quieter streets, letting the night swallow him whole. He pulled over near an empty lot, the kind of place no one notices. Cracked pavement, overgrown weeds poking through, and a flickering street lamp casting shaky shadows. Elon stepped out, the cool air hitting his face, sharp and real. He shoved his hands in his pockets and walked, his boots scuffing the ground. No plan, no destination. The world felt distant here, like he could breathe for once. But then, something broke the stillness. A soft voice, trembling but steady, floated through the air. "Please, can you help me?" Elon stopped. His eyes scanned the dimness until they landed on her. A woman, maybe in her 30s, sitting on a torn blanket under the street lamp. Her clothes were thin, patched together with uneven stitches, the kind of jacket that couldn't fight the wind. Beside her, a little boy, no older than 5, curled up tight, his small chest rising and falling under a faded hoodie. Her hair was tangled, pulled back with a rubber band that looked ready to snap. In front of her was a plastic bucket, scratched and dented, with a few crumpled dollar bills inside. Next to it, a piece of cardboard, words scratched in marker. "Homeless. Need food for my son." She didn't look up at first. Her hands rested on her knees, rough and red from the cold, her shoulders slumped like she'd been carrying too much for too long. Elon stood there, watching, the hum of the city fading into a dull roar in his ears. He'd seen struggle before. Heck, he'd lived it back when he was sleeping on couches, dreaming of rockets. But this was different. This was raw, real. A mother, alone, fighting for her kid in a world that didn't seem to care. "Hi," he said, his voice soft, cutting through the quiet. She flinched, her head snapping up. Her eyes were tired, deep brown and shadowed, but there was a flicker in them, fear maybe, or hope, she didn't dare let grow. I'm sorry," she stammered, pulling her son closer. "I didn't mean to bother anyone." Elon crouched down just a few feet away, his breath fogging in the chilly air. "You're not bothering me," he said. "What's your name?" She hesitated, glancing at the boy, then back at him. "Lila," she whispered, like it was a secret she hadn't shared in a while. Elon nodded, pointing at the bucket. "How long have you been out here?" Lila's gaze dropped, her fingers tightening on the blanket. "A few months," she said, her voice cracking. "Lost my job. Then the apartment. Now, it's just us." She brushed a strand of hair from her son's face, her touch gentle but shaking. "I just want him to be okay. That's all I've ever wanted." For a moment, Elon didn't say anything. He looked at her, at the way she held herself together despite everything falling apart. He knew that kind of grit, the kind that keeps you going when the world says stop. I used to dream of fixing things, he thought, flashes of his own late nights, coding, sketching, fighting for something bigger racing through his mind. But this is a different kind of broken. "Lila," he said finally, his voice steady but curious, "what do you need to get back on your feet?" Her eyes met his, wide and unsure. No one had asked her that before. Not like this. She opened her mouth, then stopped, like the answer was too big, too heavy to say. And right then, as the street lamp flickered above them, a question hung in the air. What would Elon do next? Loving this story? Don't forget to subscribe for more epic Elon Musk moments. Lila's voice hung in the cold night air, fragile but fierce. "I just need a chance," she said, her eyes locking with Elon's. He nodded, the flicker of the street lamp catching the spark in his gaze. For a second, it felt like something big was about to shift, like the world might bend just a little for her. But then, a sharp cough rattled from the blanket beside her. Her son, still curled tight, shivered as the sound tore through the quiet. Lila's face crumpled, her hand flying to his forehead. "Oh, no," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Not now." Elon leaned closer, his brow furrowing. "Is he okay?" Lila didn't answer right away. She pulled the boy into her lap, her fingers trembling as she brushed his damp hair back. His skin was hot, too hot, and his breathing came in shallow gasps. "He's been sick," she said finally, her words rushing out like she'd been holding them in too long. "It started a week ago. I thought it was just a cold, but it's getting worse. I can't take him anywhere. No money, no insurance." Her voice cracked and she bit her lip hard, fighting tears. The wind picked up, whistling through the empty lot, tugging at the torn edges of their blanket. Elon's mind raced. A kid. Sick. No help. He'd solved problems bigger than this. Rockets, tunnels, entire industries. But this felt different, sharper, like a puzzle with missing pieces. "We'll figure this out," he said, his tone firm. "Right now." Lila looked up, startled, hope warring with doubt in her eyes. But before she could speak, headlights sliced through the dark. A beat-up truck screeched to a stop nearby, its engine growling like an angry beast. A man stumbled out, his shadow looming under the street lamp. His jacket was stained, his steps unsteady, and his voice boomed. "Lila, where's my money?" She froze, her arms tightening around her son. Elon stood, stepping between them, his stance calm but solid. "Who's this?" he asked, his voice low. Lila's breath hitched. "My ex," she muttered, barely audible. He thinks I owe him. From before." The man lurched closer, his eyes wild. "You think you can hide out here? I need that cash. Now!" Panic flared in Lila's chest, hot and suffocating. She'd run from him months ago, after the fights, the threats, the way he'd drained every dollar she'd scraped together. She thought she'd escaped. But here he was, a ghost from a life she couldn't bury, his shadow falling over her again. "I don't have anything," she snapped, her voice shaking but sharp. "Leave us alone." The man laughed, a harsh, jagged sound, and took another step. "You're lying. Always lying." Elon's jaw tightened. He didn't move, but his presence shifted, steady, unyielding. "She said leave," he said, his words cutting through the tension like a blade. The man stopped, squinting at Elon, then sneered. "Who are you?" "Her bodyguard." He reached into his pocket, pulling out something small, metallic, something that glinted in the dim light. Lila's heart stopped. Not a knife. Please, not that. Her son coughed again, weaker this time, and she clutched him tighter, her mind screaming. She was trapped. Sick kid, no money, and now this. How much more could she take? For a moment, everything slowed. The man's hand hovered. Elon's eyes narrowed. Lila's breath caught, her world teetering on the edge of collapse. Then tires squealed in the distance. Another car, fast, black, roaring toward them. Friend or foe? Help or more trouble? As it barreled closer, one question burned. Would this be the end of Lila's fight, or the start of something she never saw coming? The black car screeched to a halt, gravel crunching under its tires, dust swirling in the flickering street lamp's glow. Lila's heart slammed against her ribs, her arms locked around her son as his weak coughs stabbed at her. The man, her ex, stood frozen, the glinting metal still in his hand, his sneer twisting into something uglier. Elon shifted, his eyes darting between the car and the threat, every muscle coiled like a spring. The doors flew open and two figures stepped out, dark suits, sharp strides, moving fast. "Step back!" one barked, voice like steel. The ex flinched, his grip loosening, but he didn't drop whatever he held. Lila's breath caught, her mind a mess of noise. Elon's people? Cops? Someone worse? She couldn't tell. Her body ached, every joint, every bone, worn thin from nights on cold pavement, from days begging for scraps, from the endless fight to keep her son alive. His fever burned against her chest, his small frame trembling, and she felt it. The crack inside her, spreading, splintering. "I can't do this," she whispered, so quiet no one heard. Tears stung her eyes, hot and heavy, spilling down her cheeks. She was done. Done running. Done hoping. Done believing she could claw her way out of this pit. The weight of it all crushed her, a tidal wave of failure pulling her under. "Ma'am, you okay?" one of the suits asked, kneeling beside her. His voice was softer now, but Lila barely registered it. Her ex cursed, stumbling back as the other figure grabbed his arm, twisting it until the metal, a rusted pocket knife, clattered to the ground. Elon stepped closer, his shadow falling over her. "Lila," he said, low and urgent. "Look at me." She didn't. Couldn't. Her head hung low, her hands shaking as she clutched her son tighter. "I've got nothing left," she choked out, her voice raw, broken. "He's dying out here, and I failed him." The air stilled, thick with her words. Elon crouched down, his face level with hers, his eyes steady in a way that cut through the chaos. "You haven't failed," he said, each word deliberate. "You're still here. That's not nothing." Lila blinked, tears blurring him into a haze. She wanted to believe him, but the exhaustion clawed at her, whispering lies. "You're too weak, too late." Then one of the suits spoke, holding a phone to his ear. "Boss, we've got a doctor on the way, 5 minutes out." Elon nodded, not breaking eye contact with her. "Hear that? Help's coming. After all this?" She glanced at her son, his shallow breaths a fragile thread, and something shifted. Not surrender, not yet. Maybe a chance. The suits dragged her ex to the car, his shouts fading as they pinned him down. Elon stood, turning to her. "We're not done here," Her chest tightened, a flicker sparking deep inside, small, shaky, but real. "Help? For her? Illa? Not even close." She looked up at him, her face streaked with dirt and tears, and for the first time in months, a tiny piece of her dared to hope. The sound of sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder, closer. But then, her son's cough stopped. His body went limp in her arms, and a scream ripped from her throat, pure, piercing, shattering the night. Was this the end or the beginning? The sirens screamed closer, slicing through the night as Lila's cry echoed in the empty lot. Her son lay still in her arms, his tiny body limp, his fever-hot skin now clammy and pale. Panic clawed at her throat, sharp and wild, her hands shaking as she pressed them to his chest. "No! No! No!" she gasped, her voice a jagged sob. Elon dropped to his knees beside her, his face tight with focus. "Stay with me, Lila," he said, his hands hovering, unsure but steady. The suits rushed back, one shouting into a radio. "Where's that doctor? We're losing him!" Time stretched, every second a hammer against her skull. The wind howled, kicking up dust that stung her eyes, but she barely felt it. Her world shrank to her son, his shallow breaths gone, his small frame too quiet. She rocked him, tears streaming, her mind screaming one word, "Please!" Then, footsteps pounded closer. A woman in a white coat burst from the shadows, a medical bag slung over her shoulder. She shoved past the suits, dropping beside Lila with fierce urgency. "Let me see him!" she snapped, her voice cutting through the haze. Lila hesitated, her arms locked tight, but the doctor's eyes met hers, calm, commanding. She let go, her hands trembling as the doctor pressed a stethoscope to the boy's chest. Silence. Too much silence. The doctor's face hardened, her fingers flying to his neck, checking for a pulse. Lila held her breath, her heart a drumbeat ready to shatter. Then the doctor's head snapped up. "He's alive," she said, sharp and sure. "But he's in shock. Malnutrition, infection, maybe worse. We need to move. Now." Lila's knees buckled, relief crashing into her like a wave, but it didn't last. The doctor's next words hit harder. "He's been sick longer than a week. This is neglect. Someone should have caught this." Neglect? The word stabbed deep, twisting in her gut. She stared at her son, then at the doctor, her voice barely a whisper. "What do you mean?" The doctor hesitated, then pulled a small vial from her bag, a blood sample she'd taken in seconds. "I've seen this before. Fever, weakness, no records. Was he ever at a shelter clinic?" Lila's mind reeled, flashes of the past slamming into her. The shelter, months ago, crowded, dirty, a nurse who'd rushed them out. "They said he was fine," she choked, her fists clenching. "They gave him a shot and sent us away." The doctor's jaw tightened. "That shot might have masked something bigger. We'll know soon, but he's been fighting this alone, because no one cared enough to check." Fury ignited in Lila's chest, hot and blinding, not just at the shelter, but at herself. She'd trusted them, begged them, and they'd let her son fade. Her hands shook, not from fear now, but rage. She looked at Elon, his face unreadable, then back at her son as the doctor hooked him to a portable IV. They failed him. I failed him. But then a spark flared brighter. Not again. Her eyes burned, her spine straightening as the truth sank in. This wasn't just bad luck. This was a fight she'd been losing because she'd been too afraid to push back. "Get him to the hospital," she said, her voice low, fierce, a mother's strength breaking through the cracks. The doctor nodded, lifting the boy with Elon's help. Lila stood, dirt smudged on her face, tears drying into resolve. She wasn't just following now. She was charging toward answers, toward justice. As they raced to the car, she made a vow. Whoever let this happen, they'd face her next. The hospital doors slammed open, a blur of white lights and antiseptic air swallowing Lila as she ran beside the stretcher. Her son's small body jolted with every push, the IV line swaying, his face pale under the harsh glare. Nurses swarmed, voices sharp. "ER, now!" While the doctor shouted orders, her hands steady but fast. Elon kept pace, his jaw set, his presence a quiet anchor in the storm. But Lila's world narrowed to one thing, her boy. His life hung by a thread, and every second was a blade against her throat. They wheeled him into a glass-walled room, machines beeping, wires tangling like a web. The doctor barked, "Blood works back! Sepsis, advanced! We've got minutes, not hours!" Sepsis. The word punched Lila's chest, stealing her breath. Infection gone wild, from neglect, from that damn shelter. Her hands balled into fists, nails digging into her palms as rage and fear collided. If he died, if she lost him, everything she'd fought for would crumble. She'd crumble. "Stay out here," a nurse said, blocking her path. Lila's eyes flared. "That's my son," she snapped, shoving forward, her voice a raw howl. The nurse flinched but held firm. Elon grabbed her arm, gentle but strong. "Let them work," he said, his tone urgent. "They've got this." She yanked free, her chest heaving, tears streaming. "They've got nothing if he dies." Time ticked, relentless. Each beep of the monitor a countdown. She pressed her hands to the glass, watching as needles pierced his skin, as tubes fed oxygen into his lungs. "Hold on, baby. Please." Minutes stretched into forever, her legs shaking, her body screaming to collapse. She saw it, his chest barely moving, the doctor's face tightening, a nurse rushing for more meds. Doubt clawed at her. "I waited too long. I trusted too much." Her knees buckled, but she caught herself, slamming a fist against the wall. "Fight!" she yelled, her voice cracking through the chaos. "You fight, you hear me?" She didn't know if he could, didn't know if anyone heard, but she'd scream until her lungs gave out. Then, a shift. The doctor stepped back, wiping sweat from her brow. The beeps steadied, slow then stronger. "He's stabilizing," she called, her voice cutting through the haze. Lila froze, her breath hitching. Stabilizing? Alive? She stumbled forward as the nurse let her in, her hands trembling as she touched his face, warm, real, breathing. Relief crashed over her, a sob tearing free, her body sagging against the bed. "You did it," she whispered, stroking his hair, her tears falling onto his cheek. "You're still here." Elon stood by the door, a faint smile breaking through. "Tough kid," he said, like his mom. Lila looked up, her eyes fierce despite the exhaustion. The shelter's failure had nearly taken him, but she'd clawed him back. She'd won. As the machines hummed steady, she straightened, a fire still burning. This wasn't just survival, it was a promise. No one would fail them again. The hospital room was quiet now, the chaos fading into a soft hum of machines and distant footsteps. Lila sat beside her son's bed, her hand wrapped around his small fingers, his chest rising steady under a crisp white blanket. The fever had broken, his skin cool at last, and the doctor's words still echoed. "He's going to make it." Sunlight slipped through the blinds, painting gold streaks across the floor, and for the first time in months, Lila felt the weight lift, just a little. Her body ached, her eyes raw from tears. But she was here. He was here. They'd survived. She leaned back, her gaze tracing the cracks in the ceiling, her mind drifting over the jagged path that brought her to this moment. The cold nights on the street, the bucket of crumpled bills, the shelter's lies. She'd carried it all, a load that nearly broke her. She'd been a shadow then, invisible, her dreams for her son buried under hunger and fear. Now she felt different, scarred, yes, but solid, stronger. She'd faced the edge, screamed into the dark, and pulled him back. That fight had changed her, carved something new into her bones. Elon stepped in, his shadow soft against the wall. "How's he doing?" he asked, his voice gentle, like he knew the answer but wanted her to say it. "Better," she said, a small smile tugging at her lips. Because of you. He shook his head, hands in his pockets. Number, because of you. I just gave a nudge. Lila looked at him, at the man who'd stopped for her when no one else had. He'd brought doctors, safety, a chance, but she'd taken it, held it, made it hers. That was hers to keep. A week later, they left the hospital. Elon's team had found them a place, a small apartment with clean walls, a tiny kitchen, and a bed for her son. No more blankets on pavement, no more begging under street lamps. Lila stood in the doorway, her son giggling as he ran inside, his laughter a sound she'd feared she'd never hear again. She touched the key in her pocket, cold and real, and felt tears prick her eyes, not from sadness but from something bigger. Relief, gratitude, hope. She thought back to that night. The headlights, the knife, the moment her world nearly shattered. What had she gained? A second chance, yes, but more than that. A fire she didn't know she had. She'd lost the weight of despair, traded it for a promise. To fight, always for him. For them. You've watched her fall, rise, and claw her way through. Think about that. What would you do for the ones you love? Lila turned to Elon one last time as he visited, her voice steady. Thank you, she said. Simple, but deep. He nodded, a spark in his eyes. Keep going, Lila. You've got this. And as he walked away, she stood taller, her son's hand in hers, the future wide open. Sometimes all it takes is one moment, one fight to find the strength you never knew you had. And there it is. Lila's transformation from a broken shadow to a mother reborn, her son's laughter echoing as proof of their triumph. Elon walked away, but the spark he lit in her burns on, a testament to what happens when resilience meets a single, fleeting chance. You've seen her fall, claw her way back, and stand tall. What would you fight for? Think about it. If this story gripped you, don't miss out. Subscribe for more epic tales where ordinary lives crash into extraordinary moments. The next one's just around the corner.